Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew on camera with me this afternoon, and out on the other vehicle, Wendy, is Scott along with Jeandre. We have Nikki and Jess in FC, and Eugene as always doing his thing and helping us out with all the technical matters that arise when you are providing a live safari. So everything that you see here and hear here is happening right here on Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands. And for the first time this season, I swear I'm hearing thunder. And that's one of my favorite parts about this whole season change. Don't stress, I think it's going to hold off for the time being. Don't think we're going to have to cut our sunset safari short, but a massive African thunderstorm is just what I've been looking forward to after this long, dry season. Anyway, I'm not sure if you could spot what we were looking at down in the drainage line there, but there is in fact, as we were crossing over, a lioness just hiding right over there. I can't exactly do a U-turn on the dam wall, I have just spotted her, so let's go and see what she's been up to since we left her on the sunrise safari this morning. It is baking hot and it's got that amazing electric feel to it this afternoon. I can't describe it to you. You have to come and visit yourself to really get this impression of the build-up to a proper summer African thunderstorm. It is incredible. I'm going to try and sneak forward a little bit because there's another predator up in the tree. Not a spotted one, but a feathered one. Oh, there was a fish eagle right in front of me. There he goes. He goes into the distance there. I did hear it calling earlier while we were sitting on Static Live. Okay, let us see what we can do. There we can hear it calling off in the distance. How perfect is that? A lioness in the bushes, thunderstorm building on the horizon, and fish eagles falling in the trees. Definitely not a bad way to start. Have to go all the way back on ourselves. I can't get down into that part of the drainage line from here. Just look at that sky that's building. Oh, it's so beautiful in the green. And when I say it's baking hot, it's 32 degrees centigrade, which is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty warm down here. And to think that 2 days ago I was heading out on the sunset safari in my full-on 3 layers plus nice warm jacket, and today I'm in shorts and a shirt, and even went for a proper swim a little bit earlier. Just a quick point before we go to find that lioness. I've just spotted that fish eagle that was calling. Sorry, just to prove that there was one, I promise. Sitting in the tree there. Don't worry, the lioness is not going anywhere. She is as hot as the rest of us. Oh, there he is. And I think they're also feeling the build-up of electricity. There's that flash of white that's so typical of fish eagles. can actually, now that I'm looking, I can see the other one. That's who it's squawking to, or it has been calling to, which is slightly off to the left and back. We're not going to be able to get the clearest view, but you can still hear it squawking. There it is, tucked behind the tree. Please bear with me a moment. I want to scoot forward and just have a look at it. I want to see if it's caught a fish or what's happening and what the reason is behind all of that vocalization that we've been hearing. And then we'll redirect ourselves in the direction of the lioness. A juvenile that's been hanging around these two. It's probably their offspring from last year. I've only seen it once or twice though, and I'm not seeing it today. Oh, there's quite a good view of the lions. Never mind, hold on, stand by. Actually, it's quite good that I came this way, because we would seriously have struggled to get into that side of the drainage line. And she's looking very warm. You can see her panting away. Now, the trick is to figure out, I just saw the second lioness move a little bit deeper into the drainage line, and the trick is to figure out how we loop our way down and into there. I'm just trying to work this out in my head. I have traversed this area before. It can be fairly tricky. I can still hear the fish eagles. I think that fish eagle is unsettled by the lioness. He came over and looked down on her and started calling. It's now heading back to the safety point of the dam. Now, I wasn't quite expecting to find the lioness on this side of the drainage line, and it's going to take some maneuvering on my part to find a way down and in there to show it to you, so that we can get a good look at these two Nkuhuma lionesses that we've been spending quite a bit of time with over the last 2 days. So for now, Scotty is in a drainage line, and I know that his signal's a little bit patchy at times, but let's see if we can see what he's seen at the end of the drainage line while I make my way into mine, and we will be back with you a little bit later.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into the Mulwati riverbed, the same river that Jamie's busy navigating her way into, and sounds like you guys have got off to a great start with her. Myself and Jean-Ray, to be completely honest, are seeking refuge from the heat in here and have been enjoying the cool breeze blowing over us in this little patch of shade. Take a quick look across to the dark clouds off to the west. It really does make for some beautiful, beautiful scenery. And listen carefully. Every now and then you may hear some rumbling thunder. I caught in a heavy storm a little bit later, but that's all part of the adventure, and it will not be good for the safari, but it'll be incredibly good for the ecosystem. So I'm entirely happy to shower this afternoon, and before that happens, I think we need to make the most of things and carry on down this beautiful drive through. Can you help me? Searching. I'm going to drive nice and slowly, and the great thing with these vehicles is that if you put them into low range, you can actually allow them to drive themselves, hands free, and that way I can focus on chatting with you guys. If you do spot anything behind me, please feel free to shout, and to do that you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Now, we've come into this area in the hope that we came here to seek refuge from the heat, and hopefully a few animals will be doing the same thing. It's nice and cool and shady in these riverbeds, and hopefully it won't take us long to find you guys something to look at. And as I've said that, the sun is slowly beginning to drift behind this first bank of thunderclouds, and I think Jean-Ray might be able to show you a glimpse of it. It's just disappearing off behind those clouds, so it looks like we won't need to be seeking refuge for too much longer. There we go, there it disappears. Great work, Jean-Ray. So shortly after we finish this route, we're going to be able to travel on without concerns for the heat, which is good news, and I'll probably be heading straight back towards where we last saw a young male leopard called Sept this morning. I did hear a few branches breaking up ahead here earlier, and I'm hoping we may find an elephant. I'm guessing that was the animal that was responsible for breaking those branches, or maybe it was the thunder that confused me. There seem to be quite a lot of elephants moving around through Djuma and Arathusa at the moment, which is great news. Because they aren't territorial, they move huge distances and have the ability to move hundreds of kilometers through the Greater Kruger National Park, which is great for them, but sometimes it means that they're not around for us. But at the moment, like I say, there are lots around, and I think I've just spotted the culprit, who we heard breaking the branches earlier. So let's stop here and see if we can work out if it's a bull or a cow, and whether it's alone. And Joe in Wales will be very happy that we've got off to this elephantastic start, as apparently it's Elephant Appreciation Day. It's also World Rhino Day. So interesting that these two large beasts have both got days appreciating how awesome they are on the same day. And we really do need to appreciate elephants for many reasons. I mean, their size alone is one of their great attributes. That is why a lot of people know about them. But even some of the things that we don't often think about, like their destructive feeding habits, are so useful for this ecosystem. Without elephants, a lot of animals would not be able to survive in various parts of Africa. The elephants make sure that a lot of the areas are kept open enough and don't become thick forested jungles. And it's busy doing that now, and it's what elephants do all day, really. Whenever they're awake, they're eating just about. And thanks very much for that update, Joe. I wasn't aware that it was Elephant Appreciation Day. This to me looks like a young bull. It can be quite difficult to sex elephants, especially when they're forward, which is an important part of the anatomy when it comes to sexing them, is covered in thorny acacia branches. And this is the plant security system against the herbivores. Generally, any plant with large thorns and small leaves will be tasty. And the bigger leaves with less thorns are the less palatable ones. I've just spotted another elephant. I'm not sure, Jean-Ray, if you can see it through that tiny little gap there. Up to the right. You might just be able to see the top of its head. A little bit more right. Unless you've got another one. There we go. There we can see another one moving through this thick vegetation. I wonder if it's not worth Jean panning up to the clouds now. It might be a little bit easier for him to show you the extent of how big they are now that the sun's disappeared behind them. Look at how awesome this is. And that is heading straight towards us. Some of it's already over us. And I think we may well get wet this afternoon, everyone. But like I said earlier, it's all part of the adventure, and it's going to be good to have you guys along for the first few droplets. If it doesn't in fact hit us, I mean, a lot of the time, and I remember the 3.5 years I spent guiding in the Sabi Sands, you would think that the storm is just about to fall onto you, and it passes by only a couple of 100 meters and you remain bone dry. So even though it looks like we're in trouble, we should rather wait and see what happens, because like I said, a lot of the time they can pass by just a few 100 meters past you and you can remain bone dry. Just going to try and reposition ever so slightly. Probably take off my big hat now that the sun's disappeared. It's been a while since I've been using it. Get ready for it again. We're going to send you to Jamie, if you can hear me, because I believe you've lost our picture.
A little bit further forward, so we... Oh wow, welcome back. Sorry, you caught me by surprise. We've just caught up with the lionesses, and the reason I want to scoot forward will become apparent in a moment. We shift over here. Now I did go into the drainage line. She immediately popped out on the other side of the drainage line. Once I'd made my way all the way across, she arrived back up here. There's one female over here, very clearly. There's another female over there. But what you don't see is there's an entire herd of impala off to the right, and they have absolutely no idea that the lions are here. And at the moment they are completely distracted because the males are sort of involved in a kind of a false rut, and they've been chasing the females around. They're completely distracted to the presence of the lions. And just a little bit earlier they were running around, and the female on the furthest to the right immediately went into a crouched pose. Although these lionesses are, they've eaten a bit of a lions are opportunists, and she's seriously thinking about grabbing one of these guys. You can see that they're about... Oh, she's going to lie down again. It's important to be patient in these kinds of things. They're about 50 meters away from her. Maybe even less for the closest one. He might even be about 40 meters away. And they are distracted. I wouldn't even be surprised if they were going to think about making their way down here towards the dam. The lions are right between them and where the dam is. You can see a whole load of them crossing the road. It's a whole big breeding herd. Could be very, very interesting to see. Now, although that one female is very much on alert, the other one is still lying down, panting away. She hasn't quite caught on to this whole we're hunting thing, we're in hunting mode, and she's quite obviously visible, and I think one of the impalas might have spotted her, but he isn't quite sure what she is yet. He's peering quite intently in our direction. Oh, alarm call. I think he's just figured out it's a lion. Let's see what they do. There's one very foolish ram coming closer to investigate. Here he comes. He's going to run right past them. Oh, he's realized. One ram is onto them. He's barking off in the distance. He's barking away. He's onto them. He's gone. And the rest of them haven't quite worked out what it is he's shouting at. The second lioness is standing up now. She's making her way to join her sister, and I think she's going to give the game away. Oh, there's another alarm call. Yep. She's not as interested as her sister is in staying concealed. She's just walked right out into their eye line. Maybe not as hungry or interested in a fresh kill or expending any energy in that direction. She is just marching down the road. There you go. I can hear the sharp barks of impala alarm calls. Okay. Well, for a moment there it looked like the impala was going to run right in front of them. But there's absolutely no chance now, so that means I can switch on and reposition. And maybe you can get a bit of an idea as to distance. The impala are still standing there watching. And they do generally tend to do that. Once they have noticed a predator, then they stick around and they watch what the predator's doing. Because once they've been spotted, they know that they can outrun any lion. It's the element of surprise that the lionesses are going to be relying upon. My goodness me, ladies, are you heading back to the smelly buffalo carcass? They are going right in that direction, which surprises me actually. I thought they might be done. Impala have dashed off now into the bush. I got so distracted this afternoon at the start of the drive with all the comings and goings with the fish eagles and lions and all those other things that I forgot to mention that if you are a new viewer and you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make about what you are seeing, you can do so on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv, and we'd love to hear from you. Let's try and get a little bit ahead of these two. This walking side by side with lions, kind of, although in a much safer vehicle position. And watching them look at the impala and sort of think about hunting them, we had a very funny comment from Susie Johnson. Oop, disappeared. And she wanted to know what these really rather well-fed lionesses were planning on doing and if they were going to roll after them. Well, Susie, that's a very good point. No, hold on. Let's just see what they do. They have very much been spotted, but they've still got that still. Oh, there's more impala up in the road ahead. I didn't see those. They've heard all of the fuss, but they haven't quite worked out where the threat is coming from. There you go, you can see them just in the middle of your screen there, those little dots, much further away than the original herd of impala. And perhaps if we're lucky, Susie, we'll see them rolling after them down the road. Gone. And I wouldn't put it past them to have a go at hunting them, but they definitely don't have any kind of chance now. Their cover has been well and truly blown. Now, I have a very strong suspicion that they're about to turn right at the jackleberry tree and then go across the drainage line and back up the other side and back to the buffalo carcass. But let's see if my suspicion is correct. And let's follow on. Here we go, turning right underneath the jackleberry tree. I'm just going to stop for one moment. I do know where these lionesses are going, so I'm not going to panic too much about losing them. I just want to show you this incredible sky that's developing next to us. This was not what I expected to see. Just look at that. You hear the thunder. The first storm of the season. Coming. And there's rain over the horizon there, you can see it at the bottom of the screen. Uh-oh, this sort of approached faster than I expected to. Oh, fish, eagle and thunder, how magical. Oh, the sky is spectacular. Okay, I better get on after those lionesses before I've said that I think that I know where they're going and then they disappear on me. That would be terribly embarrassing. I think I better head in that direction. And while I do find those lionesses again, probably by that rather rank and slightly smelly buffalo kill, Scott has some elephants to show you, so I will be back with you a little bit later.
Ta-da! Well, Jean-Andre started off showing you this bank of clouds moving in, and isn't it a wonderful afternoon? We've managed to stay with this herd of elephants in the riverbed. The signal has been quite jumpy though, so apologies if the picture isn't great, but we couldn't resist getting you guys on board with us to try and enjoy these ellies. Some surprising excitement early on with those full-bellied Nkuhuma lioness. So very happy you guys got to see that action with the impala. It just goes to show how clever the prey species are in evading being caught. Oh wow, listen to its ear rubbing up against that branch, and I think it's going to continue to do so. Look at all the dust come off if it does. No. Couldn't resist snapping off one or two pics here, it's so close to us. And this is how close they are exactly, probably about 4 or 5 meters. Isn't it wonderful? And they're completely relaxed with us. With elephants, like I said this morning, as long as you get ahead of them and allow them to feed towards you, usually it doesn't cause too much trouble. But let's get you a little bit closer in to see what else. Oh. You can often be fooled and think an elephant's charging. On the slightest of decline, they tend to get a speed wobble. That's exactly what happened with this youngster. They are absolutely covered in mud. Okay, there's Andre. Oh, good. And try and take a closer look if you don't mind or not. You okay? Andre's just getting some water. I think he may have swallowed a fly or a wasp or a bee, but he'll be back with us shortly. And when he does get back, you'll get to see this mud that I'm talking about, although there's a massive cow that's approaching us here. Hello, big girl. How are you? Isn't this wonderful? They're all around us, just meters away. Look at how close they are. This is too cool. And they're probably very excited with the prospects of more rain on the way. They'll probably have far better intuition into the weather patterns than we do. And the more rain they get, the easier life becomes for them. Listen to the thunder. Isn't this wonderful? Just going to try and reposition the vehicle ever so slightly so that we get the best opportunity to continue filming them. That was great. They were so close to us. The majority of the herd drifting back across the riverbed, and we don't spend as much time in here as we probably should. It's such incredible scenery, so apologies if it's been a while since we've taken you on a cruise through this dry riverbed. And there's one more big cow that's making her way towards us here. Look at how awesome this is. I wonder which pathway she's going to decide to take. Interestingly enough, there were a few more elephants on the other side of the riverbed to where these ones are, in the direction the others are crossing to now. So it seems like quite a large herd. And I don't recognize any of these individuals. They've got some very impressive big cows amongst them. Let's hope this lady's friendly. Again, it's just the slight decline that might make her appear that she's charging down towards us. Morning. Let's see if she stops and gives us a head shake here. Hello. Look at how long her trunk is. Isn't this awesome? Okay. Even though she was probably a meter up from the side of the bank, her trunk could be extended all the way down to the ground. And I'm not sure what you guys think, but from this rear view, looks like she could possibly be pregnant. Early signs of pregnancy maybe. I don't know if you guys got that feeling as well. Now, already, even though we are in the earliest stages of the summer, it's remarkable how thick the vegetation is becoming and how quickly even the largest of animals like elephants can disappear into this lush vegetation. There's almost this deathly silence now, the calm before the storm, I can't help but say. And I wonder what you guys think. Do you think it is going to storm this afternoon, or don't you? We'll show you one last look at these clouds. And listen to the thunder that keeps rolling towards us. Absolutely wonderful. I can almost taste the rain in my... Not sure if any of you ever get that kind of taste of rain. Let's carry on though. As far as I'm aware, they've got no problem with thunder showers. Some of them may, I guess, associate loud claps of lightning and thunder with gunshots. It's important to remember that in a lot of parts of Africa, elephants are persecuted for their ivory. Although out here, they feel safe, and I don't think that they're going to feel anything other than pure joy, because they know what rain brings for them. It brings fresh green growth, as well as lots of fresh water to drink. Well, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm having so much fun in this riverbed. I think we should try and continue for as long as we can. The signal may get a bit jumpy, but it's good to test the signal strengths every now and then.
Well, welcome back, and we do apologize for the abrupt change, but there were a couple of issues with Scott's signal. But we are back once again, and I have been spared the embarrassment of thinking I was predicting where they were going, and they actually disappeared off in the opposite direction. They have indeed returned to the buffalo carcass that they've been feeding on from the last 2 days. I've spent a lot of time describing the scent this morning. Let me not elaborate too much further, except to say that a hot afternoon in the sun has done the scent wonders, and both Andrew and myself are quite grateful that this was the direction she chose to feed in, because coming into the carcass was quite the olfactory experience. We have our lionesses back once again. Now, I know that there has been a great deal of, I wouldn't say confusion, but maybe confusion is the right word. These are two Nkuhuma lionesses. There's been a lot of debate about whether or not the one young female is the female that we saw mating with the Birmingham boys. I think that it is. There are also reports of 3 lionesses with the Birmingham boys south of our boundaries, and one of them is mating. Bless you, girl. Did the fly go up your nose? One of them was mating with an Nkuhuma lioness, in theory. We know that Amber Eyes is missing, we know that one other adult female is missing, and we know that the sub-adult female is missing. So I think that those are the 3 that are south of our boundary with the Birmingham boys. That being said, I have not seen the sighting myself, nor have I seen pictures from it. So I'm passing on second-hand information for now. And I promise you that as soon as I have a chance to confirm it, I will. Oh! Yeah, something yucky there, which I'm not surprised by. She's going to go and join her sister, who's back in the open area just across from the carcass. And I think she's going to go and flop down there. There we go. Down she goes. Gives us the perfect opportunity to move forward a little bit and see what these two are up to. Now, I've mentioned this morning and yesterday that neither of them have gone as flat as cats on a carcass tend to do, or as lions on a carcass tend to do. They've both been slightly restless, slightly unsettled. Sure. Look at that face. You need a bath, madam. Listen to the thunder. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's the first time we've heard thunder in months. It's so exciting. Oh. You found a footrest, girl. No, that wasn't very comfortable. Let's try again. Trying to find a comfortable way to rest her head on the cluster leaf. Oh, there we go. That might be better. No. I love the way that lions do that. They find just a comfortable place to rest their leg, and that's where it stays. Now, as the thunder rolls in across the savannah, so to speak, Craig, welcome to the sunset safari. You were wondering if I could smell the rain. I have to be honest, no, not yet. Right now, all I can smell is buffalo carcass, if I'm perfectly honest. A combination of buffalo carcass and lion scat. But I'm sure once it does hit, we will be smelling it very strongly. And there's nothing like the smell of African rain in the summertime. There's this, in the afternoon it gets baking hot, so the sand all gets really, really warm, and then this builds up this electrical feeling. And the minute that breaks, the minute that tension breaks, it's the most incredible feeling in the world, and one that I can't really describe. And it comes with the scent of damp earth and wet grass, and it's like everything comes alive again. It is one thing when I lived in the UK that I really, really missed, was a proper South African thunderstorm, complete with the smells. And it was my favorite thing. I've always, from as young as I can remember, I've rushed outside to go and stand in the first thunderstorm of summer. Well, now I don't have to rush outside, I'm here. I mentioned that I didn't think that these two lionesses were going to come back to the carcass. Well, I stand corrected. Obviously, they're quite happy to take what they can get at the moment. I wonder what the future holds for these two. At the moment, they're quite content. Or at least they're well fed and well watered and well rested. But it'll be interesting to see where this is all going. At least their access to water will get a little bit easier. Although, for lions, the wet season doesn't necessarily mean inevitable increase of prey. Because in the dry season, the animals are much more concentrated in water holes and around water holes. In the wet season, they're a bit more spread out. There's a lot of groundwater, a lot of cover to hide them away. make life a little bit more difficult. But at least there'll be lots of babies that will be easy pickings. But I really hope that these two females have a slightly more peaceful few months ahead of them. Oh, it's exhausting work being a lion, isn't it? Eat, sleep, drink, repeat. You here see that ear going furiously trying to get rid of those flies. And they definitely get worse every time we pay a visit to this carcass. Now, I would not be surprised. This carcass has had plenty of time to marinate in the sun and the digestive juices, and it's had plenty of time to acquire quite a ripe scent. And I would not be surprised at all if the lionesses are paid a visit by hyenas coming through tonight, if not in the late afternoon as well. And these two lionesses, they could hold off one or two hyena very easily, but not necessarily a group of 8 or 10 of them. Then they're going to start to find themselves challenged to keep that carcass safe. And that will make for some very interesting interactions. Just took a cursory glance. I mentioned earlier that this was a bit of a graveyard sitting. And Steve and Jenny, our viewers who are watching once again from France, you were wondering, oh, flopped down right in front of the car. She's just tucked herself down in front of the bonnet. I don't even think you'd be able to see her from there, Andrew. So Steve, you were wondering how come the scent of the carcass hasn't attracted hyena, and I suspect that they know it's here. They were calling this morning, maybe about 1 kilometer away, if that, just a little bit in the sort of northwesterly direction of where we are. I think they know it's here. I think they've just been not wanting to chance it with very hungry lions. And often what hyena will do, unless they have the numbers, is they'll wait for the lions to eat a little bit of the carcass before challenging them, because hungry lions defend their kill incredibly aggressively. And I imagine that these females, even though they are well fed, might do the same, but maybe not to the same extent. And I'm almost certain that there's going to be hyenas around here tonight, even if just to give it a go. And there probably were last night as well. They probably came around to investigate and then decided that these two powerhouse ladies were probably not worth taking on in terms of trying to get at the kill. But I think it might happen tonight. Just a suspicion. Well, if they weren't aware of it this morning, they will definitely be by the end of the afternoon, because that smell is going to be radiating far and wide. And hyena's sense of smell, I believe that they can smell certain smells for up to 2 or 3 kilometers away, possibly even more. Oxpeckers flying about that I just heard. I wonder if they're going to. This morning we had the most incredible sighting. It's the first time I'd ever seen it. But an oxpecker landed on the buffalo carcass whilst the lioness was feeding on it, and she actually tried to jump on and catch the oxpecker to chase it off. And that's how possessive they can be over their kills, that even a tiny little oxpecker bird that's looking to pick ticks off the carcass is a worthy challenger for them. Let's see what she's looking at. There've been no vultures, and I'm sure many of you will have picked up on that. There's no vultures around the trees. There's only that one battalier here this morning. There you go. She's decided that under the front of the car's bonnet is probably a little bit of a warm place to be. Move back out into the open. And it's going to rain I think, tonight. Not on the sunset safari, just looking around at me. I don't think we're going to get caught out this time. But Pamela, welcome to the live safari. You were wondering if they're going to eat that carcass when it does get sopping wet. And yes, quite possibly they will. I don't think they're going to be terribly picky about it. I don't know though, I could stand corrected. I thought that they were going to leave the carcass now and move on. But they've obviously decided that this is too good an opportunity to waste. And for 2 females, they've got this buffalo kill all to themselves. They would definitely eat it if they had to. Hyena, on the other hand, seem to love their carcasses sopping wet, and very often will drag them into dams and hide them away there. And nobody really knows why they do this. It's quite interesting and quite a strange phenomenon. But if they don't eat the sopping wet carcass, if these lionesses don't eat it, then the hyenas definitely will. And to remark upon the noted absence of vultures, although there has been hyena activity, I don't think the vultures have figured out that this is here yet. And it's interesting to see how that happens, because the carcass, yes, it's tucked away in fairly thick bush, but then so was that carcass that the Nkuhuma lions had killed a couple of weeks ago, that the Birmingham boys chased them off. And that was really right tucked in that drainage line, just off Vulture's Nest Road, in the Mulwati there, really thickly covered with those big dense green guari bushes. And yet somehow there were, I don't know, Andrew, you were with me, there were about 60 vultures there. It was phenomenal. We tried to count, we lost count. There were loads of them. And yet the carcass that was on Guari Pan out in the open had hardly any a couple of weeks before that. So it is a matter of luck at times. It just takes one vulture to spot a kill, which brings along a whole load of other ones. These lions are resting and sleeping off and letting their metabolisms do the rest of the work to help get those full bellies working. We have got these glorious skies, but we're tucked away in the thick bush, and Scott has got a wonderful view lined up for you. So let's head across and see what he can show you and catch up with you a little bit later.
Take a look at how awesome this scenery is. It all looks quite peaceful until now, and then you start realizing that we are in the thick of things here. Jandre and I feel like storm chasers. We've been racing around trying to get you a great shot of these clouds rolling in, and this is when it starts really getting beautiful. Look at that contrast in colors. Absolutely awesome. I just want to stop for a few seconds and keep quiet, and so hopefully you can hear the thunder coming through. And whether these clouds provide us with any rain or not, it's hard to say, but we certainly will be getting a lot more rain in the coming months. And Charlotte and Port Elizabeth, a coastal town here in South Africa, would like to know if it's harder for us to find the animals in the summer months as opposed to the winter when it's a lot more dry and open. And yes, certainly, Charlotte, we've got a lot more complications in summer. Thick vegetation, often very hard roads. After rain, it doesn't take too long for this baking sun to create a hard layer of crust over the road, so following tracks then becomes difficult. On top of that, off-roading is another nightmare that we have to deal with, because a lot of the areas become too waterlogged for us to drive in without causing damage or basically just getting stuck. So winter is certainly an easier time of the year. Having said that though, we do somehow miraculously manage to find good sightings and lots of animals, and my main theory for that is that the animals like to stick to the roads a lot more than the thick bushy areas, as it's easier for them to move down them. So I think that's what makes things lucky for us. I just want to get into another position. I just saw a massive bolt of lightning and I'm not concerned, but I'm excited to try and give Jean-Andre an opportunity to show it to you. It was a massive bolt that spiderwebbed across the southern skies behind us. Please, can we get another one? I don't think I've ever managed to show you any lightning before. If you can try and get a little bit further to the left, Jean-Andre. I mean, it could happen anywhere. Let's see if we don't get another lightning bolt shoot. Jean-Andre. Let's give it a few seconds here and see if we aren't fortunate enough to capture another bolt through the sky. Come on, please. And I'm told Barbara was just asking if there's a chance of showing her any lightning. So, Barbara, we are doing our best here. And if we're just a bit patient, I'm confident we may get to see a bit more. It does appear, though, that the storm seems to be kind of dissipating and spreading. And I don't think we are going to get wet. A few minutes ago, if you had a different opinion to Jamie, who said that she only thinks we're going to get rain later on this evening, and at this stage I think she could well be right. Great example of how, even though it may look like the storm is on top of you, it can pass by without unleashing any moisture onto you. And as the storm approaches, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering if any animals are preparing for the onslaught. I know Judy has just asked that question. And yes, Judy, there are quite a few different animals that will actually be great indicators for bad weather on the way. Harvester termites being one of them. You often see them highly active during the daytime around their little burrow, collecting twigs and various materials to probably bolster their food supplies for the coming bad weather, as well as also create a level of try and increase their protection and chances against flooding. But most of the mammals will carry on business as normal, and we must remember that a lot of animals don't really have anywhere to go. Even if you're under a bush in a heavy storm, you are going to get completely soaked. Will there be one more bolt of light? Oh, did we get it? I wasn't looking at the monitor screen, but I did see a bolt of lightning. So I think it might have been directly above us. Oh. And here you can hear the thunder rolling in a few seconds afterwards. Well, I could sit here all afternoon enjoying this wonderful scenery, but I think we are going to continue and see if we can find any sign of this young male leopard called Sindile. He did actually, shortly after the show, he crossed from Arethusa back into Djuma after some Inyala detected him. If any of you were watching the sunrise safari, you may have remembered he was kind of looking intently into the vegetation. We weren't sure what he had seen or heard, and it was some Inyala that were obviously feeding slowly towards him. They detected him, let out their loud dog-like bark, pa, 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 and he ran in the opposite direction. He thought, let me get out of here, this doesn't sound like fun. And he crossed Triple M, the boundary between Arethusa and Djuma, and we're going to now follow up and see if we can find any further sign of him. So while we head off, I'm going to send you back to Jamie, who is ready and waiting to receive you.
Well, welcome back, and as you can see, the weather is slowly descending upon us, and myself and Andrew did a very rapid moment of preparation by just pulling out a little bit of the corner of the car's raincoat or rain jacket for the vehicle in case of a torrential downpour. Here we go, there's a little bit of it sticking out here. That is our absolute emergency cover. You can see we've changed position a little bit. I'm now intimately acquainted with this silver cluster leaf on my right, but we found a nice position to have a look at this beautiful girl while she sleeps. And I have a question to pose to you all in terms of suggestions for our future plans for the afternoon. Would you guys like to stay and watch the Lionesses, or would you like to go bumbling about, see what else we can follow up on, and then come back here a little bit later to see what hyena activity there is? And you just let me know on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv, and of course we will take your preferences into account when making our decision. I don't think these two ladies are going to go anywhere for the moment. I think they're going to stick around for a while. They've obviously decided that this is good food, too good an opportunity to pass up. Here she goes again with that leg rest that I was mentioning. Amazing how they do that. I wonder why that's more comfortable. Oh, catching flies, or trying to. That was that sudden leg movement that you saw. They're obviously driving her mad. The tail going furiously to try and swat the flies. Oh, you can actually hear her whipping herself with it. You can hear the impact as it hits her. Must be fairly uncomfortable having enormously full bellies like that. Though of course that is what lions are designed to do. Shame. They're just driving her mad. She can't quite bring herself to ignore them. I have a feeling though. And we've got these giant paws up in the air from both of them. One back foot, one front foot. And Joyce, you were wondering which would be bigger, a lion paw or a giraffe hoof? And the answer is, unless it is an absolute baby giraffe and a massive male lion, for the most part it will be the giraffe hoof. They are much longer, and also if you think about it, they are considerably heavier animals. Even a small female giraffe that's a couple of 100 kilograms is triple or 4 times the weight of a lioness. So there is quite a considerable difference, and as a result their feet have to be a little bit bigger to carry that weight, but not monumentally. Now, looking for something I can give you as a sample size. You can see how absolutely enormous those paws are. And one thing I have noticed about the Nkuman, hello lightning and thunder. The sky is awake. It was very much straight after the lightning flash. It is upon us. Luckily, it seems to be something of a political thunderstorm. A lot of noise and lights flashing, but not much action in the way of rain. Anyway, to get back to Joyce's question, Andrew, if I can do a little bit of a size demonstration for Joyce. It's a bit rough and kind of tricky to do on the dashboard. But if I was to give you a comparison, Joyce, in terms of foot size, so a lion track is probably about that long for a female lion, maybe about that long for a male lion. And I have relatively tiny hands, just to give you a rough sample size. A giraffe track for a female is probably about that long, and for a male even longer, and actually quite wide, so about that width. So you could fit, maybe in a big male giraffe track, you could fit 2 female lion tracks in it, maybe. That's a sort of rough guide to a foot size comparison. Now, if you were to look at leopard tracks, a female leopard track compared to a female lion track, we put it about sort of that size. Female leopard track is so much tinier. And just think of it in terms of their weight differences. So a lioness is somewhere in the region of 100 to 150 kilograms. And a small female leopard like Shadow and Karula, who are quite tiny females, they're probably somewhere in the region of 40 kilograms. And you can see that's tremendous size difference in terms of their feet structure. And our lionesses are still quite flat and quite happy, looking very well rested. I know that one project that we definitely wanted to get going was to make plaster of Paris casts of animals' tracks. It can be surprisingly difficult. You need to kind of get the soil type right and where you go. It mustn't be too wet and it mustn't be too dry. But for questions like Joyce's, it would be absolutely awesome to have sample-sized tracks with us in the vehicle. So definitely something we're going to be working on in the next few weeks. So stay tuned, and then we can use them as tools to show you how the whole tracking size and difference works. Now, thank you all for your responses to my earlier question as to whether or not we should stay or go. Now, most of you are quite content for us to leave for the moment, and I do promise that, weather permitting, we will be back once again with these lionesses as it starts to get dark, which is when, of course, most of the action in the bush starts to happen. And while I make my way out of this particular sighting, and it is quite a tricky area, Scott has got some live buffalo as opposed to our one smelly dead one. Let's head across to him for now, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, what incredible scenes we're being treated to this afternoon. Absolutely wonderful. And not only is the clouds and scenery providing us with some great action, but so too are the animals. Tricky conditions for the cameraman, because to show you the clouds and then show you the animals requires a few tweaks on the camera, which you may have just noticed there. That is called an ND filter, I'm told. And I wonder if the buffalo that the Nkahuma lioness were snacking on with you guys was from the same bachelor herd that we're viewing now. There's about 8 or 9 that I've seen, but they're all scattered out through this vegetation around us, making the most of all these fresh green grassy shoots poking up. It was quite interesting. We heard something scream a little bit earlier. It sounded like elephants, and the buffalo all stopped and lifted their heads, listened intently to try and work out exactly what it was. Listen to how awesome this thunder is. And usually where there's thunder, there's lightning. And Ruth in Costa Rica is interested to know if I've ever seen or come across any animals that have been struck by lightning. And no, I personally haven't, Ruth, but I have heard of stories of animals being struck by lightning. It's mainly the giraffe that get caught up, and that's because their long bodies obviously create perfect lightning conductors. So other than the giraffe, there's not too many other animals that I've heard of being struck, but I'm sure if us as humans can be struck from time to time, there's nothing stopping any of the mammals out here being caught up. These boys don't seem too concerned though, and I guess what can you do? There's not many places where they can go and seek refuge, as I said earlier, and the chances of them being struck, just like us as humans, are very slim. And with all the stormy weather, GJ in California. Oh, I'm feeling raindrops. Buffalo stopped there to listen. Sorry. The GJ was interested to know if we get any cyclones in South Africa, and no, we're very fortunate. We are not affected by cyclones or tornadoes in South Africa, although very occasionally there can be some cyclone activity off the coast of Mozambique, but it's nothing to the degree that you guys get in the States, so we're fortunate here. Very few earthquakes or cyclones or tornadoes. So natural disasters are not something we have to face very regularly, although flooding is probably our biggest natural disaster that can cause us a hard time out here. Let's hope these raindrops don't increase too much. I wonder how Jamie's doing over there. There's just a few intermittent spots hitting us. Now, James in Kansas City, you have asked a great question, and I should have touched on this earlier, so glad to have you on board with us this afternoon. James has asked whether we ever get any lightning-induced fires here in the Sabi Sands, and yes, we certainly do. It's one of the biggest causes of fire, and it's at this time of the year. Especially with storms like this. The storm hasn't provided us with much moisture, but there's been a lot of lightning in the air. And if we continue to get more lightning strikes with not too much moisture, there's so much dry fuel load around to fuel a fire that we could certainly get one, and they are natural and are necessary, but obviously they are incredibly scary to deal with. The fault fires rage here, and obviously with a lot of infrastructure in the area. I've been involved in some fierce firefights here in the Sabi Sands, most of which occurred at night, which make it that much more scary because you're often off on foot, leaving the vehicles in a safe position away from the fires, and then you run off with either fire beating mats, which is basically a very strong wooden pole with a splayed thick plastic mat on the end, which helps you to beat the fires out. So that's the one technique you can use, or you can use backburns, which is essentially starting a fire that you try and get to grow slowly in towards the raging flames, and where they meet, the fire therefore dies because there's no more fuel load. But very often when putting in a backburn, it can jump across a road or a fire break, whatever you're using as your buffer, and then all you've done is added to the problem. So it's a complex and scary operation to be involved in, and one that we very may well be involved in the coming month or so. This is fire season right now. Look at this. This is quite interesting. Look at how thick the buffalo's neck is on the left compared to the one on the right. I mean, it's a massive difference. It's hope they aren't positioned as well as they were earlier, and they were literally side by side. But even now you get an idea. The buffalo on the left is in far better shape than the one on the right. Maybe the one on the right's a lot older and losing muscle condition. Well, thank you so much to Yvonne for reminding me of a wonderful word called petrichor, which is the word that describes this earthy scent or smell as the first drops of rain hit the earth. And you might be able to hear those drops of rain pattering down onto the bonnet now. Jandre is giving me a wobbling hand motion, meaning he's not too much sure how long we can withstand this for. I'm not sure what it's doing across where Jamie is. She's not too far from us. I'm guessing she's experiencing the same problem as we are. You might get the odd flash illuminating these buffalo. There was another flash of lightning now, and I'm very happy to hear that. I think Jamie and Andrew, oh, look at this. Hello, boy. Itchy neck, hard to get to with those hooves. So lucky for you, this marula tree has fallen in the perfect place for you to. Oh, now he's found some tasty grass also under this marula tree, and this is an example of how elephants can provide very useful destruction. Okay, it's a little area of safety for vegetation to grow underneath. Obviously this buffalo is coming in and undoing all that good, but if it wasn't for the elephant, this grass wouldn't be as lush and available to the buffalo as we can see now. You can actually see the buffaloes playing football with the elephant's dung there. Oh, perfect! Oh, and again, can't get enough of that bolus of elephant dung. Well, would you believe it? There's a ray of sunlight poking through. You can see it shining onto the buffalo now. This is such a welcome change after months of dry vegetation and clear blue skies. And Sue in Canada is loving the sound of the thunder, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well. And she's interested to know if I was scared or nervous driving down that dry riverbed for the chance of a freak flood, flash flood. And I don't think we have anything to worry about just yet in this area, and that's only because I have spent a summer here, Sue. If I wasn't familiar with this area, I'd be a lot more skeptical and cautious of driving through dry riverbeds. And I know the Sand River and Sabi River, which flow through our reserves, can often flash flood, and even if there's not a drop of rain here in the Sabi Sands, the rain in the surrounding areas can increase the river by meters in level. And therefore, if you are on a property where you can traverse both north and south of either of the Sand or Sabi River, which is where I used to work, we could travel on both sides of the Sand River, you could sometimes get caught on the northern bank, even though there hasn't been a spot of rain here in the property. So it is something you have to be ready for. One of my friends had just arrived. We're just going to show you this beautiful scene here quickly. One of my friends had just arrived at the lodge where I worked in the southern Sabi Sands, and he almost got him and his guests washed down the Sand River. It was also in a brand new electric Land Rover, which couldn't handle the moisture. There's a computer under the seat, so he didn't get off to the best starts at that camp, but it is scary business. But this dry riverbed, so I don't think we have too much to worry about. Wonderful. Well, again, I am very, very happy to hear that my friend Matty, only 9 years old, is joining in on the safari, and he's a little bit concerned about our safety out here with all this thunder and lightning. But Matty, don't worry, we are safe here. We're in a low-lying area, and as long as you don't go under trees, that's one bit of advice that I can give you. If there's a lot of thunder and lightning wherever you are in the world, what we often think is to seek refuge under a tree, but that's actually probably the worst place to be, because tall things like trees are the things that get struck, and even though it strikes the tree, you can get caught in the crossfire from those lightning bolts. So just remember that, Maddie, and you don't have to worry about us. We are also on this vehicle with 4 big rubber tires, which should keep us safe. But good to know you're watching, and happy to know that you're worried about us, but you don't have to worry about anything. We should be fine, and we have to be out here to show you all this beautiful weather as well as all the animals. So don't worry about that. And the good news is, speaking of animals, we are going to send you back to Jamie, who has found some more animals for you to see. We're going to carry on and search for Sindile.
Well, welcome back. Sorry about that. We just closed the camera case because it started to drizzle, and it feels as though it's going to get a lot harder very quickly. But just have a look at what we've found. I know that you had some wonderful shots of the ellies in the drainage line with Scott, but I've found my special young mother and her itsy bitsy tiny little calf, who's at the back there, still covered in fuzz and still rather ineffective with his trunk. Hey, little one, don't hide. You can come out and say hello. Now, for those of you who haven't been watching over the last few days, or might be joining us for the first time, we've been watching this little Ellie for quite a while, a couple of drives in a row, and he is absolutely adorable. He's only a couple of months old, still a little bit wobbly on his feet, and this is his mother. Now, she looks very young to me. She's tiny. This is probably her first baby, and so far she's done an excellent job, although it does look like she's almost going to reverse into him. But a very special family group, this lot. Not sure where the rest of the herd is. I have been around. Oh, you can see that very heavy sky ahead of us. Hello, Baba. I'm peeking out from behind Mommy there. Oh. Look at this little one trying to fiddle around with his trunk. That's so cute. Little tiny perfect feet. And absolutely covered in fuzz. Very, very cute little bubba. But this little boy is going to grow up to 5, 6, maybe even 7 tons if he's a big male. And Isabella, who is 4 years old from Ohio, you would like to know how it is that elephants get so big when all they do is eat grass and, as you can see, sticks. Or in this little baby's case, tries to. Now, Isabella, imagine if they didn't eat grass. What would they need to eat to keep that big size maintained? There's so much grass and there's so many twigs and sticks and branches out here that it's the perfect food for them. It means they can eat as much as they want. So one elephant can eat so much food in one day, and he doesn't have to go far to look for it. All around them is food for them to eat. So it's not like a lion that has to go out and hunt their prey. They don't have to go searching and stalking and expend energy to get it. So they don't have to use energy to get food. There's food all around them. And they can eat as much sticks and grass as they want, and they do. They eat a lot of food. Imagine if you had to eat all day, how big you would get. And that's how elephants do it, eating constantly. Mom knows exactly what to go for. The little baby's just experimenting, or just started experimenting with solid food. And at the moment it's more an exploration of what his trunk can do more than anything else. And it's incredible to think that even at 6 months old, and baby elephant can start to eat solid food. Oh, bless you, little one. Hello, Mommy. I really love this female just because she is so relaxed. Even with a young baby, she's so comfortable with our presence that she's quite happy to just come up right next to the car. Look at those beautiful eyes. And I will say that there is no other animal in the bush that looks at you like an elephant looks at you. Elephants will come up and look at you, and it's like they're really seeing you. They're looking at you as an individual and as a person. Did any of those leaves just hit you, Andrew? We're so close that those leaves that she just stripped and missed landed on Andrew. That's how cool it is. How amazing is that? Hello, little one. It's okay. It's okay. Just come say hello. Oops, wobble. Oops, wobble. It's okay, Mom. You just got a fright. He's fine. There you go. A little concerned rumble from Mommy. That was so cute. You could see that he didn't really know what to do there. Mommy had gone. Mommy was calm, but the baby wasn't quite sure how it felt about us. I think he decided we were a little bit scary, and so ran for the protection of Mom. But you could see immediately how she responded to that. She swung around. Oh, look, it's okay, little one. You're fine. You're safe. Shame. Oh, Mom's not that concerned. She's going to casually nudge him out of the way. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I think this is probably one of the cutest baby elephants I've ever seen. And I'm sure a lot of the regular WildEarth viewers have seen a lot of them. I know that Mr. Wrinkly Bottom has earned quite the acclaim. Oh, look at that ears up attitude. Love it. That little baby definitely has a little kink in his tail. And I know the mother of one of the older calves that was in this herd when we last saw them, she also has a very kinky tail, just like this little one. Oh, he's going in to try and suckle. He's tucked away his tail. It's almost like he knew we were talking about it. Trying to get in there to grab a quick snack. And I don't think Mom's made it very easy for him. She's standing on a little bit of a slope. And it's almost like he can't quite reach. I'm going to try again with some grass instead. Too cute. I don't think I'm ever going to get enough of seeing this little baby. Tiny weeny little thing. Look at that sky that's passed over us. I'm sort of hoping it's not coming towards us, but it's got that distinctly ominous feeling like it might be. Luckily those few patterings of rain we had earlier, where we had to close the camera screen, luckily those have gone for now, but there is a distinctly ominous look as our eddies disappear off into the bush. We have a question that's come through all the way from Wales, and I hope you are enjoying your rugby victory. I hear the Welsh team performed very well. Now, the question from Joe in Wales is whether or not elephants have a division between the cheeks of their buttocks in the same way that, for example, we do, or maybe other primates do. And I must say that's a question I've never considered. I've never thought about elephants having individual buttocks cheeks, as it were. Let's try and scoot a little bit closer and investigate. My answer to that is they probably do, but not a clear division. So they have natural symmetry. And when you find where fetuses develop, they lay down, as far as I know, they start with that sort of basic spinal column and start to move outwards from there in a symmetrical direction. So there's always that midline join. All mammals have it. In fact, I cannot think of an animal that doesn't, not just mammals. So they do have a midline division, just like we all do, but it doesn't seem to create individual parted butt cheeks. There you go, Joe. I hope that kind of answers your question. It's not something I've ever thought about, but there you go. That's one of the joys of these live safaris, is you not only do you not know what you're going to find around the next corner, but you also don't know what question is going to be asked next, and it's one of my favorite things. Let's see a little bit if we can move forward. And as we move forward a little bit, I'm trying to sneak forward so that we don't cause them any disturbance. We had a question about elephants, just along the same theme of elephants having divisions, so to speak. Stop here, I don't want to disturb this little one who's out on its own a little bit. But we had a question from MJ about elephant eyes. So regardless of whether or not they have divided bottoms, they do have eyes on either side of their head. And MJ was wondering if they what kind of vision they have. So do they have a blind spot in the same way that antelope do, in that they have side vision, perfect side vision, but they do have that blind spot right in front of them, or if they can focus on things straight in front of them. And I don't know. I think they might have a bit of a blind spot right in the midline of their vision, but they can focus in front of them, and you can see that. You can definitely see that in the way that they feed. Something I've never thought about before, but if you watch the way that they coordinate the motion of their trunk, and with bringing it to their mouths and grabbing the part of the plant that they want, and I know I've mentioned many times that that trunk is so dexterous it could pick up a toothpick off the ground. Oh. Or in this case, drag an entire tree over and make off with most of the branch. Look at how that tree is returned to upright position with half of it missing. Oh, never mind, she's going to grab the other half. And MJ, I don't know if they have a small blind spot in their front. I imagine they might do, just because of the width of their heads. But just judging by the way that they coordinate with their trunk, I don't think it's a very big blind spot. Interesting point. I'm going to do some further research into it. And if any of the viewers have any more information about how elephants see, I know that their eyesight isn't their primary sense. They are far more reliant on hearing and smell than they are on eyesight, but they can see. They can certainly see better than rhino can. We inch forward and see if we can get a little bit of a better view of these ellies. They are tucking themselves away. But very interesting point. Not something I've considered before. All right. Don't stress. It appears we haven't, despite our best efforts, escaped from the scent of the buffalo carcass. It's still made its way all the way to where we are now, which is probably about 500 meters east of where it is. There's a little tinge of it on the wind. Franklin are noisy. Interesting how you often hear them chirping like that before a thunderstorm. Before and after. Tucking itself away behind the buffalo thorn. Very, very sweet. Oh, fly in the eye. Very sweet little Ellie in front of us. Shame. He got a bit of a fright when we came in, but totally relaxed now. And we were discussing the question from Joe in Wales, and Gregory has sent through some interesting information about the buttocks, and apparently humans have, I assume this is the most developed backsides of all animals, the gluteus maximus, the muscle of the buttocks, probably as an adaptation to the way that we walk. The bipedal stance. But an interesting point and an interesting topic. I've often watched retreating elephant bottoms into the bushes. I've never thought about whether or not they are divided in the same way. Now, it's a pity we don't have any eddies too much closer to us so that we could focus once again on their incredible eyes, because I mentioned a little bit earlier that there's nothing that looks at you quite like an elephant looks at you. It's almost like they're seeing you for who you are. At least that's my feeling whenever they watch over me. And we had a question about whether or not the pupils of an elephant are round. I'm just trying to rack my brains and remember. Yes, I think they are. I think they are very small and very round. So Robin from Maryland, you were wondering whether or not they are vertical or horizontal, or whether they are round. I think they're round. I'm just struggling to think. What did you guys notice when you looked at that elephant eye? I'm always distracted by that incredible feeling of peace whenever I'm looking into an elephant's eye. I haven't made a mental note of their pupils, but maybe you have while you've been watching. And if you do know, or if you have any further questions on elephant buttocks or eyes, you can send them through to #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv, and they can be about anything that we happen to encounter out here. I'm going to try and loop us in and see if we can figure out a nice position to get a better view of these ellies. It is very, very thick in here. And very interestingly, I believe that the directors have offered us a way of answering Robin's question. So as I reposition a little bit, they are going to provide you with a slow motion replay of elephants, or at least of Andrew's beautiful shot of the elephant eye. Have a close look and let us see what conclusions we can draw from it. I will see you in a little bit. Welcome back. And there we have the answer to our question. It is very definitely a round pupil and not vertical or horizontal slit in the same way, for example, something like a mongoose or a horse, something along those lines might be. Now, the unfortunate news is that the elephants are heading straight to Inyala Road North. Now, I know that signal gets really, really bad on this road. I'm going to try and get us a last view of them as they move across, but then I think we might have to say goodbye to them for now. Let's see if we can get them before our signal disappears. There are just occasional signal black holes in the area, but we'll push it for as long as we can. Oh no, hold on, I'm crazy. No, that's okay, we're good. We're on Hyena Road, never mind. No problems at all. I just thought I was further east than I actually am. Oh, okay, problem solved. Let's do a loop and get a little bit closer. Oh, that's a relief. They are very much tucked away in quite thick bush though, so I'm going to try and find a nice easy way in that doesn't in any way disturb them while we move through. My word, I can't believe I forgot about an entire road on the map. You would think, having pulled that buffalo kill in about 5 times, whoop, hole, I found a hole, I would remember where I am. have found them again. It's just quite thick. Stop here for the moment, since this is the general direction that the elephants are moving in, and let them slowly come to us if that's what they would like to do. I can't really bash any further in without disturbing them. Oh, we have that wonderful replay of the elephant's eye, and a big thank you to Gregory and Donna and many others, including Sharon, who sent through that the pupil is round. Thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed that little short replay of a rather special moment with the Ellie. Here we go. Once again we could actually see that eye fairly nice and close every time she pops out from behind the bush. Trying to work out, oh, perfect, she got it. What it is she's feeding on. It's one of the bush willows. I think it might be a velvet bush willow. What a beautiful setting to have an elephant sighting in. Starting to feel the wind pick up a little bit. I feel as though we're in some kind of eye of the storm almost. Just looking around us. We've got these beautiful open skies above us and then just clouds everywhere I look. Apparently the little baby has slightly failed to dispose of his dung entirely, and that will definitely largely be due to the fact that his diet is mainly mother's milk at the moment and only just a little bit in the way of plant vegetation, which hasn't given him the same level of roughage that the adults have. Shame, man. But this little boy is going to be, you can see how tightly bonded he is with mom, and that bond between elephants is a lifelong thing, even for young males. Now, Monica, I know that you're wondering how long he will stay with his mom, and he will stay sort of right close to her side for probably about another year to another year and a half, until she has her next baby naturally. Hello, Dacre. Where did you pop out from? Obviously been disturbed by the elephants. But he will be right close to his mother until she has her next calf in about a year to a year and a half's time. Maybe even 2 years until she has her next baby. And once she does, then he will still be closely bonded to her. So even though she has another baby to look after and she might push him away a little bit, he will still spend time in the herd and he'll still have that bond with her. Just might not be as close as before. And it's only when he reaches about between 10 to 15 years, depending on how fast he grows and when he reaches sexual maturity, then he'll start to get pushed out of the herd and it'll be time for him to leave. But even then, I would argue that he would still know his mother if he ever met her at a later stage. And that bond is so, so important. That upbringing and that herd joint teaching and education that this little boy will have is so important to his future. And there were cases where young males had grown up outside of the normal natural herd structure that they would normally be in. And once they reached puberty at around 15 years old and started going into must, which is that time of heightened testosterone that all male elephants go through at regular intervals, they started playing up in a big way. And it took the introduction of some big bulls to help to calm them. Ooh, I was about to move, but there's an elephant behind me, so I'm not going to. It's fortunate I didn't. Always pays to look before you reverse, not only in the city, but also in the bush. Hello, girl. Where have you been hiding? Actually, I think this might be one of the young bulls that we've just been talking about. Grab my binoculars to see. It's a bit thick. I think it is a young male. Oh no, hold on. No, female. Sorry. Doing a bit of contorting there to try and have a look. She has snuck in right behind us. Alright, so we were talking about when the young males come into a time of their life known as a must cycle, and that's spelled M-U-S-T-H and pronounced must. And Con, in the Netherlands, you were wondering what the signs are for elephant bulls that do go into must. One of the most obvious is the secretions from the temporal glands on either side of their foreheads, near their temples, where their temples would be. And they start to secrete a mixture of very strong hormonal type secretions, and you can smell it. It's got a very musky scent to it. And they also get a little bit swollen around the temporal glands as well, because those glands are working overtime to produce the hormones and the pheromones that they're putting out there to the females. The other symptom, and it sort of builds up gradually, so the must cycle starts, and for older bulls can last up to a month or more. So it builds gradually. They start to secrete just a little bit, then just a little bit more, until it's running down their face, all the way down to the bottom of their jaw. And the other thing that they start to do towards the heightened period of their must cycle is they very often have an erect penis, but they also dribble urine almost constantly. And it starts to build up an almost greeny type layer on the inside of their back legs. So if you see a male elephant walking down the road with urine stained legs, that's the sign that he's in the height of his must, and at that point he becomes very, very smelly. And quite often in elephant sightings I've pretty more or less predicted that there's a bull in must just by sniffing the air. The other thing that they get, and both the females and the males have their own version of this. For the males in must, they have what's known as a must walk. And it's almost like the elephant water walk reposition, but for the moment I believe that Scott has something to show you. So let's head across to him and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone, and what a beautiful sight this is. The beauty continues to amaze me as this afternoon unfolds. We have been searching for any further sign of Sindila. I took a short walk, we drove around, but it is so incredibly thick in the area that we last saw him heading into that he could be lying up anywhere just meters away from us and we could drive past without seeing him. So I think we're going to call it quits on searching for him, because we're going to try and race off to the hyena den and see if there's any action unfolding there. It's always a tricky thing to do, decide deciding where to go on safari, but I actually haven't been to the new hyena den, and I'm quite excited to get there. And I know a lot of you guys love going there, and we didn't stop in this morning, so let's see if we don't get lucky this afternoon. They could well not be active. So that is a reality. Even though we know where the den site is, it's not necessarily going to be a hive of activity. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to go there and check. And as we drive there, though, I am going to continue scanning for any sign of this leopard, or potentially his mother moving back into the area to collect him, to take him back to kill. A dyker just ran across the road. You may have got a glimpse of that. Dyke is a very small antelope. What we ideally need now is a leopard up in a marula tree. But what we're going to do is just imagine, because we have marula trees which are plentiful, but imagine if there was a leopard silhouetted up there. Now it's going to happen one day. Look at these colors. Imagine if out of the bottom of a screen a leopard just came rocketing up into this tree. It could happen, but I don't think today is going to be our lucky day. I'm looking forward to seeing more of leopards up in trees. We haven't been very lucky this winter. They do certainly use the marula trees in winter to hoist their kills. But because the trees have got no leaves, it doesn't provide them with any shade or cover. So we tend to find them more in the summer months up in the marula trees. It's harder to spot them because the same tree that we're looking at now is going to be covered in dense foliage. Very happy to hear that my father is watching this evening's show. And I wonder what the weather's like down in Durban. It's about 1,000 kilometers from here, my hometown. How's it, Dad? Hope all is well. And I think I'm due a phone call, so I will give you a ring a little bit later. Or you are due a phone call, rather. And we're going to continue rushing off to the hyena den site and send you back to Jamie, who's repositioned and ready for you guys. Enjoy, and we'll see you a little bit later.
Welcome back, and we have managed to reposition a little bit. We're never going to manage to get too close to these ellies, but we did manage to catch this little one perfectly positioned in front of the sun and having a snack. And what a beautiful image that makes for. And the storm has cleared for now. It's made for the most beautiful evening. And what a better way to spend a sunset than in the company of a herd of elephants. I certainly can't think of anywhere better to be. Just listening to the sounds of the bush. And the rustling of the elephants as they move through. Let me do one more loop and one more reposition and see if we can get the mom and her baby as well. They're right there, they're just tucked away behind some of the bush there. Let's see if we can loop forward and just get a nice view again. doing some spring cleaning quickly. As we reposition to get these ellies in our picture once again, some interesting percussion going on around us as we move our way through the bush. Let me just navigate this, and then I'll answer a question from Joyce. This is proving to be quite a difficult block to navigate through, and although I don't want to make too much noise up close to them, I really don't want to scare the baby at all. But Joyce, you were wondering who can reach higher, an elephant or a giraffe at sort of adult height? And the answer is an elephant, but only just. So a full-grown male giraffe would probably have the same reach as a full-grown female elephant, but the male elephants have just a fractionally higher reach, or have recorded to have a slightly higher reach, and that's because they can actually stand up on their hind legs as well and extend their trunk all the way up to reach up just above the record height of a giraffe. So even with that very long tongue of a giraffe, the elephant still is a little bit higher. I wonder if that mommy's going to stay there, because then we have a perfect open patch to see her. Let me just give it a minute, see if she's going to keep moving or if she's going to stay. Here comes little one, and he's actually responsible for my answer to the next question. Now, Christopher from Owner, you say that in all the times you've been watching Safari Live, you've never heard an elephant trumpet, and what would have to happen to cause that? Now, most of the time, the squealing sounds that I'm sure many of the regular viewers of the damn camera will have heard, that's babies. A lot of the time, that's a baby squealing. They're often big for milk, and they also make a tremendous amount of noise when they feel as though they're being wronged. So those of you who saw us on the Sunset Safari quite a long time ago, where mom left baby alone for a while, and baby got slightly nudged by an older cousin, and promptly screamed like it was being murdered, and mom came racing back and immediately gave the older elephant a stern talking to in terms of elephant body language. So most of the time it is babies who either feel like they've been bumped or they're begging for milk. They make an incredibly high-pitched wailing sound. I wouldn't call it a trumpet, but females being alarmed or chased by males or pressured by males and feeling boxed in, they'll also trumpet and make quite a lot of noise. And if they want to communicate their displeasure with a human presence as well, I've also heard them trumpet, especially when they come racing towards us. Now, our precious little baby has tucked itself away once again, but we do have another visitor moving up to our left who's decided to come up nice and close to us. It's that young one who was behind us earlier. girl. Now, if he stays like this, I've been asked many times about the differences between Asian and African elephants, and I've often been interrupted mid sort of train of thought. So I thought I'd try and continue that conversation, because I'm sure many new viewers would like to know. So starting with the enormous ear, that is one of the biggest differences, as well as the tusks, which for the most part both female and male African elephants have them, but most Asian female elephants don't, or have very, very basic, very tiny ones. That's one of the big difference. The other one is the tip of the trunk, and it's moving very fast at the moment, but there you can see how African elephants have two lips almost. 2 points at the end of the trunk, one at the front and one at the back, that they use like fingers, whereas Asian elephants only have one, and the other side is flat. Hello. Coming right up close to say hello. Now, what I wanted to do while that elephant was standing next to us was to carry on that comparison, but he has, or she has, moved directly behind us, so we're not going to be able to do that. But she does. The other thing about Asian and African elephants, the highest point of an African elephant is their shoulder, and then their back dips down, almost in a sort of convex manner, whereas with Asian elephants, the highest point is in the middle of their backs. They actually have curved backs. And there are other small differences. There's a couple of differences in terms of the number of toenails that they have, but they are such vastly different species that they actually cannot interbreed. So it's happened once in recorded history, and the offspring didn't survive for very long, but they are that far apart. They are completely separate species, and there's actually quite a great deal of differences between them. Our Ellies have moved off to the right of us now. They're sort of now it seems as though we have elephants here, there and everywhere this afternoon on the Sunset Safari. Scott is sitting at Sydney's Dam with some Ellies, so let's head across to him, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, aren't we all getting absolutely spoilt this afternoon? Wherever we go, there seems to be action. And now more elephants. What a beautiful scene this is, looking out onto Sydney's Dam. These Ellies are on the go slow and have been standing around in this clearing for quite some time now, which is abnormal for elephants. They're usually always on the move feeding. Obviously they need to sleep about 8 hours a day, but you don't get to see them relaxing quite like this very often. All different shapes and sizes. And there they go. That's a bit better. Parading off. Look at that youngster. Oh, photo bomb. That guy seems like he's in a rush. The serenity was then broken by a white truck, what we call a bakkie here in South Africa, B-A-K-K-I-E. Americans generally call them SUVs, I think. Anyway, let's hope he gets to where he's going to safely, and we're going to send you back to Jamie and try and continue rushing towards the hyena den to see if we can get any of the last light over there. See you later.
Welcome back, and we're just shifting around to see if we can get another visual of these Ellies before they disappear. But I think if we don't manage, or if we do and then they decide to move off, then we're going to leave it at that and start heading back towards the buffalo carcass and the possibility of hyena interaction. But let's just get one last visual of these ellies before we say goodbye. I think these ellies are definitely on a mission. I'm not sure where they're off to, but wherever they are, it's keeping them moving. They might be trying to catch up with the rest of the herd, because I've only seen these 4. So that could well be that the rest of the herd has moved on and then they're slowly making their way behind them. But what a beautiful, beautiful evening it has been. Okay. What have you spotted, Andrew?
I saw a wasp land over here.
Yes, there it goes. It's there on the paper bark acacia there. Oh, you're challenging yourself. Hope it's... there it is. Oh, there we go. Well done, Andrew. As it flutters around. Now you're challenging me as to what that is. Which particular wasp that was. Very sneaky.
Sorry about that.
That's quite alright. I've got no idea what particular wasp that was. It's quite difficult to tell when it's silhouetted in the light. But we are seeing lots of them moving around at the moment. They're busy making their nests and their various galls. They're just trying to provide for their larvae that they're going to lay, or their eggs that they're going to lay very soon. I almost wanted to guess, what are they called? Hold on. We spoke about them the other day, paper wasps.
Potter wasp.
Or a potter wasp. It could almost have been one of those, although I think that the thorax was a little bit thin. I think so. But it's a bit difficult to tell. We may never know. But we've still got all of those green shoots on that beautiful tree. And the flying wasps moving around a lot. I noticed when I was in my room earlier that there was a hornet looking to make a nest probably somewhere in the folds of my curtain or something. I'm not sure if she stayed or not. But as long as she keeps to her space and I keep to mine, she'll be a welcome visitor. I'm going to leave these elephants now. I'm not going to try and follow them any further in this thick block. All I'm going to do is make noise and disrupt them. And I think it's getting to that time of evening where we want to think about being back at that lion carcass. Not the lion carcass, sorry, the buffalo carcass being eaten by the lions to avoid all states of confusion. Tuck that out of the camera's way. I'm sure I had a much easier road in here than I have had out of it. Which way is the road, everybody? Does anybody know? Fairly certain it's this way. Here we go. Now, while Scott heads off in the direction of that newly located hyena den, we're going to head back to that buffalo carcass. I very, very strongly suspect that at some point tonight, the hyenas are going to come to investigate that incredibly pungent dead buffalo. And it will be very interesting to see. It's only two lionesses defending it, so I'm very curious to see what's going to happen this evening. Now, while I continue on my precarious route through the bushes to get back to our buffalo carcass, I believe that Scott has made his way to the hyena den. So while you look at some hyenas with Scott, I will navigate to the buffalo, and I will be back with you a little bit later.
Well, sadly we have missed the sunset, but look at those beautiful colors. Welcome back, and I've just been listening to a very, very interesting update on the radio, and it's just come through now, so I don't think we're going to have time to make it there. It's quite a way away, but Shadow and her cub Sindile have been found on 2nd Windmill Road on Arethusa, which is basically directly north of the Arethusa Dam, a far distance away from where we left him at about 9:30 this morning. So she must have missioned back in the heat of today, and it was incredibly hot, all that way, probably about 2.5-3 miles to collect him, and then back to the kill. So they've been found there. Great news, but I don't know if we are going to have time to get there this evening. But at least they are doing well. They have reunited, and they are feeding on a kill. I'm not too sure exactly what it is. I'm probably going to hear a few more updates shortly. But let's take a closer look. We are in luck, and there is one hyena so far that we've seen at the den. And it is very, very relaxed, as you can see. Can you hear? I don't recognize this individual. It's got perfect ears. Almost perfect. I've just noticed a chunk out of the top left ear. But I don't recognize this individual, and there may have been some shifts in the clan as to maybe who the dominant male is. Even though we can see what appears to be a scrotum at the rear end of this hyena, it could very well be a female. They've got very, very similar appendages. So I'm not sure who this is. It's acting almost as if it needs to get up, but it's not quite ready to. Picking its head up and then flopping it back down. 5 more minutes. It's going to be worth hanging around here. Maybe some of the younger cubs will come out to play. And this is my first time at the den, but thankfully Gendre is with me, and he says that this is usually the most active side of the den, and we did approach from the other side of the termite mound and didn't see any action there. So we've basically got about 300 degrees of the 360 degree radius covered so far, and I doubt there are any hyena that we've missed just on that small little section that we haven't seen yet. We're kind of now on the northwestern side, but the 2-track that approaches this den is basically pops out directly on the other side of where we are now. So the only little portion I haven't checked very carefully is somewhere over there, but this whole other side we've checked considerably. Well, it's interesting how they like to lie in the same spot. This small excavation almost that you can see it lying in, a little bowl almost, would have been created by the hyena. They'll dig it out with their feet and then lie on the soft, cool sand, often also urinating in that very same spot to leave some stories for the other hyena that come and use it. It's incredible how the animals do use urine and scent marking to tell stories and leave messages. It keeps listening out in the same direction, and when they do this, it always kills me because we don't have a clue of what they are hearing. It could just be the leaves rustling in this gentle breeze, or possibly there's some other audio further away that we simply cannot hear. I cannot believe how far Shadow has moved in one day to collect her little cub. Not that little anymore, over a year of age. And well done to the Arethusa guides for tracking them down this evening. Just going to get on the radio quickly and ask Craig if there's any further updates on them. Craig, I caught most of that updates with Shadow. Do you know what bumper it is and whether it's hoisted? Okay, copy, thanks very much. I've just arrived at the Mnisikaya. There's one adult here. Negative at the Mnisikaya off Aubrey's, just one adult. So sadly, Craig has not got the answer to either of the questions I asked him, whether or not it is hoisted or what kill exactly it is. Copy, thanks Craig. And he said he is on his way there, as I'm sure a lot of other vehicles are, and that's another factor that I did put into my equation when deciding whether or not to try and race. There's going to be a long queue of people trying to get into that sighting, and I don't want to get involved in queuing and putting any extra pressure on people who are already in that area. It's kind of luck of the draw with guiding, and if you are too far away, it's almost rude to come rocketing in from miles off. And we need to maintain good relationships with all of the guides, so I'd prefer to guide responsibly and leave them to enjoy that sighting, and hopefully we'll be able to head off there first thing in the morning. Although it would be a bit of a surprise if Shadow has hoisted her kill, because a lot of the time in the recent past she hasn't been hoisting. And that means even though we may find her on kills in the daytime, the following morning we can go there and they can be gone, thanks to the friends that we are looking at now, the hyena. Aha, now speaking of hyenas stealing carcasses, Amy has just sent through an email asking a great question, and she would like to know if there's any chance that different hyena clans would join forces in order to overthrow lions, like the two Nkuhuma lioness on that buffalo kill that they've got. And as far as I'm aware, yes, Amy, they will, interestingly enough, band together when there are these random scenarios like that. But it's not very, very commonly seen. Hyena often obey their boundaries and territories very strictly. And on some reports, now this is just what I've heard, I've never seen it, people have been seen following hyena who are chasing down their prey, and as soon as they get to one of their clan boundaries, they jam on brakes and let their prey run away. So there's two lessons about that. They do monitor and stick to their clan territories very strictly. And secondly, they also can hunt when need be. So, not too sure what would happen here. I've never seen hyena clans join forces in the Sabi Sands, although I do know to the west of us on Elephant Plains, there was about 20 hyena that was seen together chasing the Inkuhuma pride off a buffalo. It was the Inkuhuma pride and the Shimungwe pride. So I'm not too sure if that was one clan or two clans that joined together, but I know when they do hear the whooping and cackling of other clans, it may call in other clans into that area, and they know that it's in their best interest to get the lion away, and then they all have an opportunity to try and feed on as much of the carcass as they can. Naturally, there might be quite a lot of squabbling and fighting once they do overthrow the lions to see who gets the best feeding position, but I think they will certainly do that, and who knows, maybe it'll happen tonight with the Inkuhuma lioness. I wouldn't wish that on them, but it would be some great action to see. This individual I don't think is going to be helping though. Not if it carries on in this frame of mind. But maybe he's or she is just none the wiser. They are such unique animals, and as I just mentioned, I'm not sure if this is a male or a female, and Mari and Susie in Chicago would like to know a little bit more about hyena, and that is whether they are more closely related to the dog family or the cat family. Well, interestingly enough, they are more closely related to cats, even though their appearance is more dog-like. But they are in their own specific family. They don't fall into the Canidae family, the dog family, or the Felidae family, the cat family. They have got their own Hyenidae family. And that is why you may have heard us calling their youngsters cubs, not pups, because they are more cat-like than dog-like. I'm not too sure whether they do have a barbed penis like the cat family. I don't think they do. I think their mating is more dog-like, but it's a very, very unique procedure because the female actually has to invert her enlarged clitoris, which is usually exposed like a penis, and she has to invert it to obviously create a point or position or posture rather to receive the male. It's something that I've never seen, and it's not very well documented, but I think their mating will be more dog-like than cat-like. Now, earlier I mentioned that in that little bowl the hyena's lying in, they quite often urinate. And now Gregory's interested to know, do they ever defecate close to the den? And no, Gregory, usually they don't defecate in and around the den sites. It's used more around their clan boundaries and borders. So they'll use these latrines, these kind of these sites for defecating, which are known as latrines for carnivores and middens for the herbivores, and they'll do these in very set spots. I'll try and show you some. There was actually one very close to where we were looking to Sandile, where it's just littered with white droppings of the hyena. So you seldom see it around the den, but it's more in set spots, usually on clan boundaries. Okay, well, I'm not sure how much longer I can sit here and watch this hyena sleep for. I'm not sure what you guys think. If you want to stay a bit longer, I don't think any cubs are going to pop out this late in the evening. But let me know your thoughts. I personally don't think it's worth our while hanging around. Well, while you guys make up your mind as to what I should do, we're going to send you across to Jamie with the lions. And the first person to say stay or go is going to be the winner of the voting here. So let us know quickly and enjoy the lions with Jamie. Maybe there'll be some more hyena lurking over there.
Welcome back. And there you see the giant paws of one of our panting lionesses. And she's very hot and very full and very much right on top of us. When I first came into the sighting, we had both of them in view. The other female got up and moved towards the carcass, and she came and lay down right next to us. I mean, really right next to us, as in she's probably about 2.5 meters away from my back wheel, which means that for the moment, this is where we are going to be sitting, because I can't reposition without forcing her up and away from us. So we're going to let her just relax and sleep off her big meal. But you can see how close she is to the vehicle. And if I try and start or do anything now, it's going to completely disturb her. So just know that the other female is over there. She is currently feeding on the carcass. And now we sit with our vigil and wait to see what happens as it starts to get dark and much, much cooler. Now you've been sitting with that adult hyena with Scott at the hyena den. And that is actually who we're waiting for while we're here with these lionesses. There's a very, very good chance with the amount of odor that buffalo carcass has increased in over the last 12 hours. I think there's a very, very good chance we might see some hyena action here tonight. And I'm not going to, as it gets dark, I'm not going to keep scouring around with a spotlight, because the creatures who are going to tell us when the hyenas are here are the lions. And they're going to be keeping a close eye. And we're looking at her now. She looks, apart from her reactions to the flies, she looks completely relaxed and flat. But as soon as the hyenas enter into the sighting, we'll be able to see a change in her behavior, her and her sister's behavior. There you go, you can see the other female feeding on the carcass at the back there. At the moment, we can't go there short of disturbing the female that's basically parked herself under the back wheels. There you go, you can see her at the back chomping away at the carcass. Could even be the crunching sounds of her teeth that lead the hyenas into wherever these guys are, where this buffalo kill is stashed away in the bush. I can hear the crunching from here. I'm just going to be quiet for a moment so we can hear it. I'm not sure which lioness this is. It's quite, oh, there we go. It is this lioness that we looked at earlier, yesterday, with first at Gowrie Dam and then this morning and this afternoon. And we've had a bit of an opportunity to see the wound on her leg. Now I actually hadn't seen that one on that side. That's the first time I've seen the puncture wound there. But she does also have one on the inside of her thigh. That's interesting. I didn't see that original one before. I wonder if it hasn't been opened up slightly. But Elizabeth, you were wondering what the condition of the wound is. Well, there we go. It's not too serious. Looking at it now, although that puncture wound I hadn't noticed before on the outside of her leg. I'd only seen the one on the inside of her back left leg. She's very conveniently... There we go. Okay. Oh, no, girl. No, roll this. She's rolled over. Elizabeth, it's not too serious at all. It is a deep puncture wound. It's broken all the layers of skin. But it isn't going to cause her any long-lasting damage. She's not limping in any way. She's not favoring that leg in any way. It's going to be fine. These animals are so incredibly resilient. It's mind-boggling. A big girl. Is the grass just not very comfortable with such a full belly, huh? Got to do lots of rolling around. There we go. She's decided she's going to shift to a different position. Oh, flop down in front of me. Okay, that does give us a nice opportunity to loop around and just see that other lioness feeding for now. While she is feeding on the carcass. Is she still there? Not sure where she went. Let's go investigate. That looks like a very still carcass to me. Let's go see where she might have gone. Try and navigate out of here carefully. There's a couple of holes that we were navigating earlier. Now, I know that you were at the hyena den with Scott, and I've mentioned that I'm wondering if tonight is not going to be the night that the hyenas come across here and challenge the lionesses to their kill. And Gerda, you were wondering how far are we from where the hyena den is. We are... Oh, that's a tricky calculation. We're quite far. We're in the sort of northern central area of Djuma. The hyena den is in the northwestern corner of Aubrey's Road. If you give me a moment, I'm trying to do some rough calculations in my head. And I think we're probably about, in a straight line, about 3 kilometers away. But that's nothing for an adult hyena to cover in a night. We've spoken many times about how much distance they can travel and what phenomenal amount of stamina they have. There's our lioness. Oh, there's the smell. Quite a few more maggots in there already. Try and get the spotlight, just give us a little bit of extra light without shining it right in your eyes. And the noise of the flies is absolutely unbelievable. It's really quite incredible. Find a way to light up the inside of that carcass without being too shaky. It really is, it's like, I don't know, it's like being outside a beehive almost, the noise from the flies. My goodness me, that's quite revolting. Sure. I have a very strong stomach and I'm quite used to seeing various kills, but there's something about the positioning of this one that's directing, it's almost funneling the smell towards us. How are you doing back there, Andrew? Are you okay? It is absolutely horrendous. And it's difficult to know. You kind of want to choose between breathing through your nose, at which point you get the full impact of the smell, or breathing through your mouth, at which point you get the taste of it in the back of your mouth. And I think that Andrew and I will be smelling this for a while to come after the sunset safari. She's loving it though, you can see, tucking right in, licking away the bits of meat from around the ribs. She's just stuck her head right in the cavity there. This is going to be a test of endurance for Andrew and myself. It is those white bits at the back there are the maggots forming, and they've formed very, very quickly because it has been so warm. Although I do think that's a good indication of how old the carcass is. But we were talking about this morning and we saw the beginnings of those white dots coming through. And there's a chance she might eat some of the maggots, although I think she's trying to get to the meat at the back. But she's still managing to consume some of them at the same time. She's looking quite happy with herself. Doesn't see what all the fuss is about. This is perfectly acceptable as a food source. Sorry guys, as she's chomping away, Andrew's just trying to get hold of me on the radio. Andrew, standing by. That's affirmative. They are still with the Signori Bamba. It's northeast of that. Probably your best approach is to actually come from the big Jackalberry on Gari Cut Line and to move through onto the other side of the drainage line. That's where you'll be able to see the most off-road tracks that have made a path through. Copy that, no problem. She's decided an approach from the opposite side is the way to go. I was just letting Andrew know how to get into this particular sighting. It is very tricky. It's an incredibly thick block, and if you didn't know the path we used, you probably would struggle to find it. Tugging away, trying to pull that incredibly thick skin away from the ribs so she can get to the meat underneath. I'm going to try and shuffle forward fractionally so we can see a little bit better. She actually might come around to the back there. Oh, fly in the mouth. She's going to settle down. I'm still going to try and shuffle forward slightly. I think we might get a slightly better view. There's something of a bush impediment in front of me, but it's never stopped us before. I don't know if that's any better, Andrew. Cool. There we go. At least we've got a slight gap there between the trees. It has certainly made the smell worse. She's decided to go for the back end. Oh my word, my eyes are actually watering. Go. I'm going to tackle it from that side again. Okay. Yummy. Dinner. And this is quite an important show of how a lion is such a survivor, and these lionesses in particular. They are feeding on a fairly rotten carcass because it is just the two of them, and they absolutely cannot afford, after all they've been through, to pass up an opportunity of a good meal and having full bellies for a couple of days. Now, she's feeding on a carcass, as I said, that is fairly old and fairly rotten, but she's doing it as a way to survive, and that's partly in response to all of the chaos and disruption that the Birmingham boys have caused in their lives. And although they are now brokering for peace, Ruth, you were wondering how far away the Birmingham boys are with those other lionesses that they've been seen mating with. And they're probably, if they are where I think they are at the moment, it is of course impossible to tell, they might have moved, but they're probably about 4 or 5 kilometers away, which is, what is that in miles? About 2.5 miles, 2.2 miles. Yes, that seems about right. I'm not sure exactly how far into the properties south of our boundary they are, so I can't give you an exact answer, but that seems about right to me. Obviously being kept quite distracted by the Birmingham boys, or by the attentions of the females mating with those Birmingham boys. Now, she definitely would have consumed some of those maggots that we can see, which are those white blotches at the back there. And just in the same way that she's more than capable of feeding on a slightly rotten carcass, she's not going to have too much happen to her in terms, if she does ingest the maggot eggs, her stomach acid will destroy them. She's not going to be in any way unhealthy. She might get a little bit of a runny tummy. I have seen lions with diarrhea quite frequently, as well as occasionally vomiting and eating grass to respond to an upset stomach. And I think it's time for us to go back and see what that other female is up to and whether or not she's moved, because quite honestly, at this point, I'm not sure Andrew or I can handle it too much longer. We might need a breath of fresh air for a moment before we return to the site of the smell. So whilst we reposition and I regain my sea legs, so to speak, Scott has a wonderful chameleon to show you, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Do the upwards reveal. Welcome back, everyone. Jean and I were just planning how to reveal this wonderful little chameleon to you before we got ambushed by the link. But good to have you with us again. And I believe there's some fairly gory sights across with the Inkahuma lioness. It just goes to show how important food is out here. How cute is this little chameleon? It's probably only an inch or so long. And I love the way they can move their eyes. It's really incredible. Sadly, from this angle, we can only see one of the eyes, but they can move them omnidirectionally. So one eye can be looking up, the other eye can be looking down. Now I wonder how their little brain processes those two images. Us, it's easy, we only have to process one. But they're chopping and changing between two different feeds. I guess no different to Nikki and Jess sitting in the final control room getting two feeds from the two vehicles. We're not going to spend too long here because they are not nocturnal and we don't want to attract any unnecessary attention to it. And I'm sure you've had a good enough view of it already, and we can now let it fall asleep again, and maybe we can return here in the morning and see if we can track it down during the daylight. One thing that I hope to see and show you this summer is a chameleon hunting, shooting out their long rubbery tongue onto an insect. So that's a goal of mine for this summer, and the best way to do that will be to find a chameleon at night and return and spend some time with it during the day. Well, you're gonna stay with us now. We're not going to rush you back to Jamie, so we just need to reverse out of this interesting scenario that we've got ourselves into. I'm parked in a bush. Shortly going to be leaving now. Hello everyone. And just moments before we found the chameleon, I said to Jean, okay, it's time to find either a chameleon or a bush baby. So now we've got one of those two done, and this is a good area to find bush babies in. I've seen quite a few moving here on night drives. So let's hold thumbs. They're such awesome little animals. Big eyes, and they have this incredible ability to be able to leap meters through the air in the pitch black. So that is next on the menu, or at least what we would like to see, but there's a lot of other animals that we would be pleasantly surprised to bump into now. Porcupine being one of them. They're nocturnal, and we've never shown you one since I've been with Safari Life, and that's approaching a year now. Little chameleon, I think, would have actually been born last year. They're probably about half the size of that, the new hatchlings. And let's hope we do manage to find you some of those this season. Speaking of animals that we don't get to see very often, Maureen in Michigan is interested to know, when will the wildebeest return? And Maureen was obviously watching this time last year in the summer months and noticed that there was a lot more wildebeest around than during the winter months, and they're probably going to start returning any time from now, as there's a lot more better grazing in this area. And she's not only interested in the wildebeest, but also any smaller mammals, jackals, mongooses. Jackals and mongooses won't migrate, so they're gonna have just been around. We just haven't been in the right place to show them to you. There will be movements, of course, of the animals, but you can't really call them migrations, and it's more shifts in territory. There used to be a pair of side-striped jackal that we saw quite regularly here in the quarantine clearings, but they only made this their home for a very short period of time before moving off. So the main animals we can expect to see returning that have been away during the summer months are birds that are going to migrate from all parts of Africa and even further abroad than that, Europe and Asia. And then the zebra and wildebeest will be the main mammals returning. close to the quarantine clearings, and I'm hoping that when we get there we may find a white-tailed mongoose that's been lurking around in that area. Another animal we could possibly bump into is a snake, and the first snake that I managed to show this season was just off to our right. And Brenda in Washington is interested to know about snakes and whether they will actually feed on dead carcasses that they come across. And not that I'm aware of, Brenda. For me, all snakes that I know of will feed on live prey. Now, if anybody knows of a snake that is happy to feed on carrion, please let us know, because that would be very interesting. But I'm fairly convinced that all of the snakes that I know of have to catch and kill their own prey. They are not scavengers and will rely on their hunting techniques to find food. Like I said, I'm sure there may be some of you that may know something different, and I'd be very happy if you let us know about that. Sign of the white-tailed mongoose just yet. Could pop up at any stage. Another question through on the topic of snakes has been sent through from Kim on Twitter, and she would like to know if I'm worried about driving through the bush and the fear that a snake may pop out or possibly even fall out of a tree that we may be driving past. And Kim, I personally am not. I love snakes, so no issues for me, and I'd actually be very pleasantly surprised to see more snakes than we do get to see out here. So that should answer your question. Hopefully we will be seeing a lot more snakes. And what we need to remember is that even though some snakes are highly venomous, most of the time they're going to avoid us at all costs. Especially in these big vehicles, they can hear us, feel us, and sense us coming from a long distance. Anyway, we will be sure to keep you updated on any snake sightings we see behind the scenes, or even whilst we live on drive with you guys. And we've just got a message through, thanks very much, I think it's from Janet, reminding me to call my father, so thank you for that reminder. It's been so much fun being out here on this incredible afternoon. The weather and the scenery and the clouds that we got to experience was something that we haven't experienced for quite some time now. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and thankfully for you guys it's not over yet. We're going to send you back to Jamie. Well done, Jandre. And thanks to Nikki and Jess in the final control room. We'll see you bright and early for the sunrise safari.
Oh, welcome back. And we're sitting blissfully upwind of the buffalo carcass, being serenaded by the fiery-necked nightjar and one rather confused Cape turtle dove, who apparently still thinks it's daytime and was calling just a few moments ago. But what an interesting afternoon it has been. Impressive that these lionesses can still feed on this rather rancid buffalo, and it does go to show how incredibly opportunistic lionesses can be. But it is going to be interesting to return here for the sunrise safari and to see if these lionesses are still around, or if they're going to try and make a connection with the rest of the pride members. Bless you. She's just got a fly up her nose over there by the carcass. Anyway, a big thank you to Andrew for all of his fantastic camera work, and to Nikki and Jess, who are in FC, keeping us on our toes, and to Eugene for all of his technical genius. And thank you, the viewers, for your questions and your comments. It's great to have you on board with us as always. So have a wonderful day or a wonderful evening wherever you are in the world, and we will catch you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. We'll see you then.